she's terrible.
Don't say that, actually.
She's
Welcome,
terrible.
welcome everyone
Every day I
to
give her instructions, and every day she sticks it
Torah
to me.
L'Chayim with your host, Rabbi Anibal Mass, streaming live from the Asper Jewish Community Campus here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Local time, 12:07 p.m. So it's Central Time. Yeah. Welcome everyone online. Welcome everyone in person. Hello, Christy. Hi, Shelly.
Hi, Rabbi.
Hello, Leon.
Hello, Rabbi.
Are you on a diet or something?
Always, well, lifestyle.
Okay.
I'm always on a diet.
Yes.
I'm on a seafood diet. I see food, I eat. Okay. And we have wonderful people here online. Glenn Anderson is with us. Who else? Say hello. David Grossman. And Harvey Garfinkel. Welcome. Welcome to the class. If there is anybody else, please say hi. We want to know that you're there with us. Snow is slowly melting in Winnipeg. You have to understand, Christy, I always give a weather report to everybody, right? Because they can't understand. Some people connect from the United States. I think they can't understand why sometimes you can't see anything because it's white.
But it is snowing. See?
A little bit, but then we had days that it was all green. I said, what's going on? It's February. Well, so I give them a report every time.
Comments from the
Hello,
people in
Holly
Florida and
Mandelkern.
Texas.
Josue Rivera, welcome. That's a name that I haven't seen in a while. Randy, welcome to the class. Yeah, we're going to study Parshat Pekudei. And for those of you who actually noticed the title of this class, because I try as much as possible to put a title, so you have an idea, a little bit of what I'm going to talk about. The title is The Itinerant Schnorrer.
Oh, right, you're talking about that.
Schnorrer?
Schnorrer.
Sure. It's a Yiddish word.
It's a Yiddish word that
What Rabbi told me.
the plain translation is beggar,
Okay.
but it's more than a
It's
beggar.
more than a beggar. It's not a beggar on the street who's got a tin cup or his hand out. A schnorrer is someone that you probably know who comes to your house
And it will guilt you out to give money.
and cons you into
Yeah.
giving him money or clothing or food.
Yeah,
or assistance.
they are shameless.
That-
These guys. There is a famous joke about the beggar, that he was kind of charmed. So there was a rich man who used to give him in Russia 500 rubles every year, right? And then one year he gave him 250. I said, why would you do that? I said, well, my daughter is growing up. I have to start paying college. And the beggar, the schnorrer said, how dare you sending your daughter to college with my money?
Sadly,
that's-
they're often a relative.
That kind of thing. But
Close
also, this is what I wanted to mention, and we are going to start studying right away. Hello, Rocky. Welcome. Rocky says schnorrer is also a greedy person.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
But the schnorrer, it's also there is also the role or the figure of the itinerant schnorrer, which is a person who goes from town to town
Yes.
collecting money for a Jewish institution, usually a Torah Academy or something like that.
Yeah.
Some of them are real,
And
some of them are not. But
That
there's
happened to me in Israel.
that they
Oh
come.
yes, for sure. Oh,
But it was
absolutely.
random. Like I said, do you have a pamphlet? And he said, no.
No, they don't.
No, usually what they have is a letter from a rabbi. And they would say, look, this is my credentials, and you have like a few rabbis who signed different letters and said, yeah, this is authentic. Sometimes I look at those letters and I say, come on, my son is 10. He can probably design something better than that on his computer, right? But some of them are real. We are talking about small Torah academies where the rabbi will just handwrite a letter and go ask for money. So you never know. You never know. The only time I met such guy was in Chile. I went to an Orthodox synagogue. The head rabbi was from Bnei Brak.
Okay.
And after Mincha, there was this guy who was a schnorrer from Israel, who was collecting money for a yeshiva, but he had the blessing of the local rabbi. Said, "This is real," and
So it became okay.
but he was extremely good at taking people's money. And I remember he had a discussion with one of the guys there, because the way they collected money is he give you a list. I said, $100 you buy cutlery for the kitchen. $200 is you buy pots and pans. And there was this guy that comes to the synagogue. He manufactures kitchen utensils in Chile.
Especially for
Kitchen, for industrial kitchens. And she said, if you tell me what you need, I will
I'll get
ship
them
it to
for
you.
you.
And he said, no, cash only. I said, and that's not a red flag? And like he was saying that no, basically that the pots and the pans and utensil are just a guideline, but it doesn't necessarily the money will go for kitchen things. So I said, okay, thank you. I'm not part of the synagogue. I don't understand how you guys operate, right? I'm out. But they gave.
you don't see them going door to door in Winnipeg anymore. Like
They used to be-
When I was a child, we used to see them all the time.
I saw once here,
all the time.
and it was funny. I don't know. They were followers of Reb Nachman from Rabbi Arush.
Yes.
That they show up at Sher Zedek. There were three.
I remember them.
There were three Orthodox guys that show up at the Sher Zedek. And they enter
They stood
with
at the door.
luggage full of books. They opened the books on the hallway, and they just sat there selling books.
Yeah, I remember.
I said, it doesn't work like that.
They stood
I
at
said,
the
well,
doorway
you're
of the
supporting
chapel. They wouldn't come into the
And then they came back at night. It was a wedding, and they crashed the wedding, and they started to sell books. And they were sleeping in the car, not showering or anything, and you can tell. They had this car. It wasn't even a van. It was a car that had all this. They painted outside, Rabbi Nachman and all that. I remember I bought a couple of books from them. And they actually got something to eat. We fed them. And I was surprised because the kitchen wasn't kosher to their standards, but I guess they were starving, so they ate. And then they were saying that after that, they were continuing to Saskatchewan. They were going all the way from Toronto to Vancouver, stopping at all synagogues to sell books of Rav Nachman. That's also technically a schnorrer. Okay. With that in mind, let's begin with the class because I have a few things. First, I want to start with this week's parsha. We are talking the book of Exodus, chapter 38. Okay, it will start on verse 21. And what it says at the beginning of this parsha is the inventory
Yes.
of everything that was done for the tabernacle.
Right.
Okay, I mentioned this last week. This was the first capital campaign of the Jewish people. It's not much different from what we are doing with the Sher Zedek. That we do. I always think that we call it ledor vador because we go from door to door asking for money,
We did.
but
We did.
it actually means from generation to generation. But what an irony, right?
Yeah.
So they did pretty much the same, and they have two different kind of donations. One is pay what you can, and the other one was the fixed one, that it was the half shekel. Everybody have to give that, and on top of that, they could give more, but the half shekel was mandatory for everybody. It's not much different of what modern synagogues do, that you have membership, right, which is fixed. But on top of membership, some people will give donations.
They give donations. And
For
some
other things.
synagogues, it was very much talked about
Hi,
10
Amparo.
years ago. I don't know how much it is now, and you'll remember this. when there was a big conversation about tithing. According to,
Yeah.
in some synagogues where I want to see your income tax
Yes,
statement,
but
and we'll charge you
now
according, and that
the tithing,
did not do well.
but tithing in temple times was either to support the priests
That's right.
or the poor,
That's
but it
right.
wasn't for the temple itself.
It wasn't to maintain the
So the way it worked is all the half shekel that they were collected every year, that was used for all the animals that they had to buy for the sacrifices, for the olive oil and the incense. Okay? For everything else, for repairs, enhancements, they have special donations. And on top of that, everybody had to donate, they had to tithe their income,
That's right.
and that would be distributed to the poor, but it was also to support the priest. What happened is, all the priests, everything that was a Kohen, couldn't do anything but being a Kohen. And there were quite a few. They were taking turns at the temple, right? And but the funny thing is, I mean, I wasn't born on those days, so I don't know all the details, and I'm not an expert in temple times. But when you bring your sacrifice, part of your sacrifices has to be given to the priest,
Yes.
like part of the meat,
To maintain.
and that Kohen can eat it, can bring it home, but you can choose to which Kohen to give that.
Ah,
Okay, but on top of that, there was this fund because so the Kohen were doing well. The other one that were struggling were the Levites because they were singing at the temple, doing all the cleaning and thing, but they had no direct offerings going to them. So they were very poor and they couldn't own land. The tribe of Levi was the only one who didn't have land.
right.
Remember, when they entered to the promised land, there was a lottery. The land of Israel was split among all the tribes, but Levites they were purposely
They were
scattered
scattered.
all over the land. They were teachers, and I think, but they so part of these donations were also going to them and to support them. But yeah, the tithing once the temple was destroyed, there was no biblical obligation of the tithing anymore.
So,
So some synagogues still do it, but it's a tradition. It's not an obligation. Okay? But that's why the synagogues, they have to operate on the basis of membership. There are some Orthodox synagogues that they don't have membership and they were able to convince people to donate through tithing, but not everybody. Okay. So, let's go to the text. It says, these are the accounts of the tabernacle, okay? The accounts of the tabernacle by the command of Moses, by the hand of Itamar, the son of Aaron, okay? This is just a summary of the first verse. So, listen what the Midrash will say, and also the Mishnah. The sages taught, always appoint at least 2 people together as trustees over public funds.
right.
Let me read it again because it is halakha. This is Jewish law. This is Jewish law. Always appoint at least 2 people together as trustees over public funds.
That's pretty common even in most organizations, whether you're a profit or a non-profit. It's signatures called 1/1.
So, but
One
technically,
signature isn't enough. You need 2.
But-
Depending on the amount of money.
technically,
Well,
Guys,
that goes into their rules. of
look,
how they do it.
when
But it's
you-
almost always 1/1.
when the synagogue wants to go ask for a donation, technically, halachically, according to Jewish law, they have to send 2 people. And I learned that in my former shul in Chile. After the high holidays, the rabbi, the rabbi's secretary,
Yeah.
used to call every single person who got an honor during Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, either to open the ark, to have an aliyah to the Torah,
Of course.
and said, the rabbi would like to have the pleasure to have coffee with you
Yeah.
to discuss your donation. But it was never the rabbi, it was the rabbi and the executive director, and they would both go together. Now the rabbi will just sit there smiling, and the executive director will do all the talking. Okay? But he taught me, I asked him, I said, isn't that better if you split forces, right? So you can go to more places. He said, nope, according to Jewish law, he has to be always two, because he has to be a witness of what was discussed.
What was said, what was done, how much was promised.
Especially if money was handled on the spot.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's always two, okay? And it's coming from here. So it says here, because it says, when they did the account of the tabernacle, okay, you will see that it was Moses, Itamar, there were more than one person involved in that account, okay? So, let me continue. Even Moses, who enjoyed the full trust of God, as it is written in Numbers 12:7, in all my house he is trusted, figured the accounts of the sanctuary together with others, as it says, by the hand of Itamar, the son of Aaron. Okay? Moses could have done it by himself. I said, no, Itamar, come here, let's do it together. But why? Because I don't want people to say that I took something that belonged to them. And I don't want you, Itamar, to do it by yourself, because people may say the same about you. So let's do it together. Moses represents leadership,
Yes,
like the CEO, right?
that's right.
Itamar represents,
Basically, the board. Or
no, the church.
the church.
He was the priest.
The organization.
So that's why the
Yeah.
two together were the one making the count, and that's why it's very common for synagogues that they will send the executive director and the rabbi. It's coming from this week's parsha, that tradition. Okay? So if you have any questions at home, please use the chat. I love your messages, guys. So any questions here? So let me
I'll reminisce after it passes over.
let me bring you a story that I want to ask you, because it's not common in this day that somebody knocks at the door. Sometimes it is, but not always. When
Depends on where you live now. Some neighborhoods aren't identifiably
look,
Jewish
I'll
anymore.
give you a story. I'll give you a story, okay? And you will tell me what you will do, okay? A family was watching television one Sunday,
Okay.
when a man rang the doorbell. He asked for tzedakah for needy families in Israel who were too poor to afford food or clothing.
I've heard this story before.
The
No, not the one you're telling me, the doorbell.
The family had heard that there was a con artist collecting money around the city. That person pocketed the large sums of money that he received rather than donating them to those in need. But they were not sure if this was indeed the faker, or rather a legitimate collector who helped the needy. Okay? They had to make a decision on the spot. Should they give money to this man or not?
I remember you. I don't know if it was this story, but you taught it in the class.
Yeah, it's similar.
And I remember what you said.
So what would you do? Because this is something to, I mean, if it happens here, chances are that you can say, what organization you're coming from? Silom Mission. Okay, I'll give a donation online. Thank you for your time.
Right.
But it's not always possible.
No. And if they won't leave you anything, any written material, then really not. Because hanging a string around your neck with something is not an idea anymore. I have to see your printed material. Do you have a pamphlet that I can read? Thank you very much.
They can fake it too.
Oh, they can. It's
I always say, if I can, they can.
wow, you. Not everybody has your technical skills.
That's why not everybody is outside. It's going door to door, right?
That's right. That's right.
And they said, or they will say to you, oh, don't worry. They said, I will give you a receipt. And they had a thing with receipts. It doesn't tell me that you're legit.
Well,
It tells me that you know how to make receipts.
well, it's not that long ago. They haven't done it maybe for half a dozen years. Maybe half a dozen years before COVID, when nobody did anything. And I used to canvass for them, heart and kidney and cancer.
Yeah, I was doing that.
All canvassed neighborhoods, and you had block people. And there was a time when $5 got you the receipt. You know,
Yeah.
some people only had two. give them a seat anyway because
So-
it made them feel better. But that doesn't happen anymore.
We give them a receipt, they just can't use it for tax purposes, that's all.
Now, let me tell you what Randy says here. She said, better to be deceived than take a chance of not doing the right thing.
That's right.
Yeah, the
exactly.
rabbi said that,
You walk
that,
away from the door, you
that he
feel
said,
like, you know,
even if 1 out of 10 is legit, right? It's better to give money to somebody who is not legit
Oh, yeah.
rather to not give to the one that it is.
oh, yeah, but you know,
But the thing is, the rabbi will say that at the end of the day, because it's your money, it's your decision to do it. Especially if you're not sure.
Absolutely.
If you have doubt, then you have the right to not
Did you
give.
say you have to no matter what?
To give? No, it's better, but it's not an obligation if you have doubt. If you don't have doubt, you have to give. Because there is always how can I say this? It's all about how much embarrassment is involved in the situation. You're not allowed to embarrass the person,
that's right.
okay? So it's funny because even if it's a fake, you have to still be careful how you say things
You know, it goes from,
because you're not allowed to embarrass people, period.
So what about when you're on the corner of Broadway and Main and someone's knocking on your window?
it's up to
And
you.
you say no, is that embarrassing them?
No, it depends how you say it.
Okay.
It all depends how you say it. And it's interesting that,
Roll down the window.
You
yeah,
don't
but
have to
it,
roll down the window. You can shake your head.
but
you
the
can turn
tradition
away,
is,
you
if
can,
the
you can say no, thank you.
or maybe sometimes you don't have money, right, to give, and you have nothing else to give them. So sorry, I don't have it. But there is a tradition, by the way,
Some
that
people are
I
very
learned.
good at making eye contact.
I learned recently that you have to be careful during Purim. That is, that Purim is the only day of the year that you have the obligation to give to anyone to ask you. So you have to, if you go outside, just take cash just in case, because it's one of the mitzvot, the commandments of Purim, is matanot la'evyonim,
Yeah.
you know, give to the poor, and it's a mitzvah.
And there are some things that you do in some places that you go regularly. You know there's going to be someone outside who's going to be asking, not necessarily the same person,
Yeah.
but it's a prime spot for people to.
So the other thing is, at least in the Jewish neighborhood, a thing, you can argue that you could expect 2 people coming to see it, right? So I will read what the Talmud says. I'm going now to Baba Batra, page 8a. It said, no position involving public money can be filled by less than 2 people. Well, you can argue that if it's just, you know, for different reasons, 1 person is enough, but when it's for an institution, they should be sure to send 2 people. When a position involves deciding how to spend public money, at least 2 people also must be involved in making the decision, not just asking, also spending. Okay? Also the decision, 2 people. Therefore, when collecting tzedakah monies for a public fund, at least 2 people must be present. Okay? It's about also you are trying to avoid people talking about you.
Well, that's right. That's right.
Why do you think, you know, if there, God forbid there is any problem, then they will say, oh, who was collecting the money, right?
On the other hand, there's the other form of public embarrassment. You know, I knocked on so-and-so's door and he wouldn't give me a nickel.
So anyway, so let's continue with this. So I wanted to mention before we continue, about the schnorrer, right? That one of the big problems with the schnorrer is it was a single individual.
Series of vignettes.
No, but it was a single individual, right?
Yeah, there was.
And that's why they were never trusted, because it's a single person. If you see 2 people going around with a letter from the rabbi, they could be faking it together, right?
But
There was this joke of 2 beggars outside a church, right? Outside a church, and one had a sign that said, "Help to this poor Jew," and the other one said, "Help to this poor Christian." And everybody will get out and they will look at the Jew, and purposely will put money on the tin, or they say, hell, they put Christian to see the other guy, going empty-handed, right? And then at the end of the service, the priest come out, want to talk to the Jew. He said, look, he said, can I give you a piece of advice? And I said, why don't you go to a synagogue to ask for money? Here, people are not so sympathetic to give to you. And the guy who said, help this Jew, talks to the other beggar, said, Moshe, look who's trying to teach us business. Okay. So let's continue with another topic for this week's portion. Okay? It came to pass. Now we are in verse 17. Chapter 40, verse 17. It came to pass that the tabernacle was erected. Yep. Hallelujah. It was done. Okay? Now, the Hebrew word for it came to pass is vayehi. And it appears many times in the Torah, vayehi. And it happened. It came to pass. Okay? Now, listen what the rabbis say about this word, because they don't like it. They don't like the word vayehi. Listen to this. Whenever the Torah uses the word vayehi, it came to pass, this connotes a woeful event or a bad event. Okay? Every time they say vayehi is a prelude of something bad. It's like, when you're telling a wonderful story, right? And this says,
Spoiler alert.
But.
Spoiler alert.
I said, but, let me tell you. And then when somebody said, let me tell you, I said, oh, here it comes, right? So the Torah is also talking about the counting of the tabernacle and all the work done and da. Let me tell you, vayehi. What woe was there in the Mishkan completion, in the tabernacle's completion? What was bad about it? Right?
Did you say what? Woe?
Woe. It's about, how do you pronounce it? W-O-E.
Yeah,
Woe?
no, it's
Woe.
What was me?
Yeah.
What terrible thing.
Whoa, terrible! It's a little terrible thing. So let me rephrase so we all understand. What terrible thing was there in the completion of the tabernacle? What was so bad? Listen to this. I love this one. I think it's the favorite comment today. This is comparable to a king who had a contentious wife. Right? Contentious wife. They were always arguing with him. So he said to her, make me a purple cloak. Okay? As long as she was preoccupied with it, making the cloak, she did not quarrel. When her work was completed, she brought it to the king. The king saw it and was pleased with it. Began to cry out, woe, woe. Say his wife, what is this, my lord? I have labored to do your will, and you cry, woe, woe. Said the king to her, the work is beautiful and favorable in my eyes. But as long as you were preoccupied with it, you did not anger or provoke me. Now that you are free of it, I fear that you will again anger me. So too said God, as long as my children were occupied with the Mishkan, with the tabernacle,
They didn't fight amongst themselves.
they didn't grumble against me. Now they will again begin to provoke me. Therefore, it says vayehi, implying vai he. It's like, they were oy vey. Oy vey, have you ever heard oy vey? Vai is the word vayehi could be split into vai from vey, vai, he. Woe isn't. Okay?
Basically, a woe is me.
Which is very interesting, because this is something that is being part of Jewish history all the time. Whenever we have a common goal and we are busy doing it, we are united. Whenever we don't have something like that and we all go to our own lives, that's when we start fighting with each other. I will say I noticed that after October 7, right? That people who didn't talk to each other for a long time, they were shoulder by shoulder, you know,
Shoulder to shoulder.
shoulder to shoulder.
It's so good to see you.
Yeah.
And there was,
And-
there was chesed in the land, not
Yeah.
only amongst ourselves, but amongst the world for us. And that lasted for about a week or 10 days.
Well, but you see, this is the same.
And now everybody hates us again more.
While they were busy doing this, they were all together because they have no time for
United in a
anything
common
else.
purpose.
For anything else. Sometimes it's for something positive.
Yeah,
Sometimes it
for
could be
sure.
like building a new synagogue or Le Dor Vador, right?
That's right.
We're all together raising money, but then when we go back to our routine, then we go back to our old ways. So this Vayehi, well, we all know that after this, if you go to the Torah, bad things did happen and they did rebel against God. But for us as readers, it's a warning of what could happen. And it's for us to recognize that, yes, it's very important to find something to do together, but, life is not like that. We won't be working together towards a single project every single time. So how do we avoid the Vayehi after the project is completed? How do we avoid the Vayehi after, God willing, a truce happened in Israel?
How do we sustain
I don't have.
that?
Well, I don't have the answer.
Nobody, I don't know if anybody does, Rob.
But I want to say before that, I want to welcome Berechaya from the UK. Welcome. Yeah. Okay. So this is, I don't have the answer, how do we do it, but it's something that is in the Torah for a reason, for us to learn to detect it and to avoid it. And yeah.
It's a
Okay.
reminder.
So let's continue with this. So let's go back to something positive with the parsha, because it says after it was finished, it says the glory of God filled the tabernacle. Okay? What is the glory of God?
Cecil B. DeMille, notwithstanding, I think this sense of community and chesed amongst the congregation would just this feeling of joy and togetherness and so forth. Everybody was infused with this for a short period of time.
Well, I will say that technically, when we talk about the glory of God, in modern terms, we call it the Shekhinah. Shekhinah
Yeah.
is technically one of the names of God, but it's, how can I explain this in an easy way that we can all understand? Because we are entering into a mystic
That's why I said
realm.
Cecil B. DeMille, notwithstanding.
We have different names of God, and it's not that we have different gods, but it's because
Different
God is
aspects of God.
yeah, because God is infinite. We have to choose different aspects so we can understand part of the whole. Okay,
That's right.
so Shekhinah is the part of God that we. It's the rabbis call it the lowest, but it's the one that is the closest to us.
That we could relate to more on our
More, but we still have to work to bring the Shekhinah
we still
more
have
to us.
As we go up through the
Okay,
days, yeah.
and it was in the tabernacle back in those days. It looks like it was very clear. There was a cloud, so it's representing the Shekhinah. But then it's when we went into exile, the Shekhinah came with us. Okay, but it says it was very clear that once the tabernacle was finished, the Shekhinah was present, and people could feel it. So the rabbis ask, for example, what is the meaning of the verse from Song of Songs? I have come into my garden, my sister, my bride. This means that God says, I have returned to my bridal chamber, to the place which has been my principal abode from the very beginning. Let me explain what it says here. You have to be familiar with the book, Song of Songs. is a very strange book, because if you don't have a warning before you open it, it looks like erotic poetry.
And it can be.
It could be, yeah, but
It's
and it
very
was
beautiful. It's very sensual.
and it was debated by the rabbis before it was canonized, before it became part of the biblical canon, because people will have to make they have to be, how I said, people have to argue, right, that no, guys, we have to understand that this is not a relationship between a man and a woman. This is a relationship between God and the people of Israel. God is the groom, Israel is the bride. Okay? So the whole book is a metaphor, and it has to be read as a metaphor. And once you learn how to read every verse of Song of Songs as a metaphor, okay, then you can understand better certain aspects of God and the loving relationship between God and the people of Israel, okay? Rocky Pollack says, he says, sob, woe when our preoccupation with the new Zedek renovation ends. I hope no. I hope we'll be at the beginning of a new happy time. But I noticed that in these days, we're all pushing, working towards the same goal. Then we'll have to find, I guess, other common goals to do.
It's a difficult time.
Okay, so let's come back to this part of the Shekhinah of God. So basically, God coming into the tabernacle is presented, according to the Song of Songs, as God coming back. It's almost like returning. Okay, that it was a distance before, but the sanctuary was the one who brought the presence of God back. Okay, so the rabbi said, this means that God says, I have returned to my bridal chamber. Okay, to the place which has been my principal abode from the very beginning. Because you have to understand that the people of Israel was compared to a cheating wife.
They weren't faithful.
So if you are cheating on me,
They weren't
I don't want to see you.
faithful to the covenant.
I don't want to see you. Call me when you change. Okay? And the other way, with the woman who said, get out of the house. Right? Come when but in this case, God is presented as the faithful husband, and the people of Israel, the unfaithful wife.
They were.
Okay?
Especially when you get to the golden calf.
Well,
If not before.
until this time,
Dumb.
right? Now it looks like this is the how you say it, the reconciliation.
Yes.
Look at the beautiful house that I built for you.
Well, reconciliation or reconsummation, or both.
Both. Okay. Let's continue. For was not the principal abode of on the Shekhinah in the terrestrial region? Because it's about, wasn't the Shekhinah already here, right? For so it's written in the book of Genesis, they heard the voice of God, of Lord God walking in the garden. Okay. But when Adam sinned, the Shekhinah betook itself to the first heaven. So it said the separation goes all the way to the expulsion of the garden of the Garden of Eden. When Cain sinned, the Shekhinah moved to the second heaven. When the generation of Enosh sinned, third heaven. When the generation of the flood sinned, fourth heaven. When the generation of the Tower of Babel sinned, fifth heaven. Because remember that back then, when the generation of the Tower of Babel, God said, I'm coming down to see what's going on. Right? Why down? Now it makes sense, because every generation was pushing God to a different level. Okay? Let's continue. When the generation of the fifth heaven, when the people of Sodom sinned, it rose into the sixth heaven. And when the Egyptians sinned, it ascended into the seventh heaven. Then arose 7 righteous people who brought the Shekinah down from the celestial to the terrestrial regions again. So you have 7 sins, 7 levels of separation, and then 7 righteous people who brought it back.
And we've got the numerology of sevens again.
Who were the 7 righteous people? Abraham brought it down from the 7th to the 6th. Isaac brought it down from the 6th to the 5th. Jacob brought it down from the 5th to the 4th. Levi brought it down from the 4th to the 3rd. Kehat brought it down from the 3rd to the 2nd. Amram brought it down from the 2nd to the 1st. And Moses brought it down from the celestial to the terrestrial regions again. When did the Shekinah come to dwell on earth? On the day when the tabernacle was erected. As it says, the cloud covered the tent of the meeting, and the glory of God filled the tabernacle. And we have to understand that we believe that when the temple was destroyed, that separation happened again. That's why the prophets ended, the prophecy ended, and explicit miracles stop happening. Like we don't see Red Sea splitting anymore. We have to, so in fact, God said that. There is a prophecy in the Bible that it says, on that day I will hide my face. He doesn't say, I'm out. He said, hide my face. Doesn't mean that you're not there. No. When you hide yourself, you're still there. But I have to take the time
You're going to have
to lift the veil so I can see you.
You're going to have to do the work.
Right? It's like playing hide and seek.
Telling us we have to do the work again.
Have you ever played hide and seek? Right? It's not that the other person is not there. You have to search for him. So this is the same.
You have to
Seek him. Yeah. So yes. So this is what happened here. And the tabernacle at that time was great, and it was celebrated because finally, after all these generations, God is present again in all the splendor. But then from that time, started pushing it away, and with the destruction of the temple, we created a huge gap. That for us is still there. Okay? But it's not that God is not there. We have to now do the work to see God. This topic is going to come again when we study the class on Purim. Because the book of Esther is the representation of the times when God is hiding his face. How do we know that? The name of God is not present in the book.
No, it isn't. Not once.
What is the name of the book?
Esther.
What does Esther means? It's coming from the word leastir, which means to hide. Okay? She was a Jew. She was living in the palace, right?
Yes, but she didn't want anybody to know.
Nobody knew that she was a Jew. She was hidden. Right? So the book that deals with the concept of hidden is the book of Esther. And it's a perfect manifestation of the way we live our life today.
Yes.
So that's why when some people tell me Purim is a kid's holiday, I said, are you out of your mind?
We water it down so kids will understand.
No, but I
it
think it's-
and have fun with it.
I think it's
But
also
a very serious
part.
topic.
It's also part of the hidden. It's the truth of the book of Esther, and the message of the book of Esther is hidden behind a kid's holiday,
It's very relevant today.
right? But it looks like it's not there because we cannot pass the fact that the kids are having fun. But it's up to us to. We're going to study that when we study Purim. I have a wonderful class for that. So let's continue with this. Listen to this. Talking about the Shekinah. From that time, the rabbis always insist that we have to find ways to be aware of the Shekinah because it's not explicit the way it was. Okay? So, back to the Talmud. Rav Huna, the son of Rabbi Yeshua, will not walk 4 cubits with an uncovered head. He said, the divine presence, the Shekhinah, is above my head, and I must act respectfully. So why do we wear a kippah?
Out of respect for God and to protect.
This is the Shekhinah. Is
The
the
kippah
symbol,
is the shechina.
is the symbol of the Shekhinah above us. So that's why Rav Huna would say,
Cool.
I won't walk.
I didn't know that.
He said, he would say, I won't walk 4 cubits. I don't know what is a cubit. I mean,
That's okay.
my
It's-
measuring tape that said
whatever
inches
you
and
are.
centimeters, not cubits.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be not a long distance. Okay, let's say 4 steps without a kippah, because he wanted to be aware of the presence of the Shekhinah at all time. Okay, so let's continue, because I want to share something with you that is about the kippah. Why we wear the kippah today? Okay, listen to this. From a biblical standpoint, only the Kohanim, the priest, serving in the temple were required to cover their heads. So, out of the bat, we learn that it's not a biblical commandment. Yet, for many centuries, the obligatory custom has been for Jewish men to wear a kippah all the time, as the code of Jewish law, the Shulchan Aruch, says. It is forbidden to walk 4 cubits without a head covering. So, what happened is the Shulchan Aruch took the words of Rav Huna, who was his tradition, and made it mandatory for everybody. Especially when there is no more temple. Before, you will see the priest doing it, and now it's like we are a nation of priests. So we all take certain behavior from the priest into our lives. For example, we cover our heads. And the Shulchan Aruch makes
No,
mandatory.
but back then it wouldn't have been that small. Right?
No, it will be a hat,
Like
a full
full
thing,
on. Yeah.
a whole thing. Similar like people in the Middle East will wear. Yeah.
Oh, I believe it.
Let's continue. A question. Does a kippah have to be worn, for example, while playing sports?
It has to be worn at all times.
The rabbi says, sure. But if it is impossible because of the game conditions or rules, it is okay to play without a kippah.
Ah, interesting.
Okay? So only if it's not a problem for you.
So you can wear it under your baseball hat. You can wear it under your football
Well,
helmet.
no. The baseball hat is kosher. So
the hat is cool.
probably the baseball is a very Jewish game then, because
It is a very Jewish game.
although I like better tennis as a Jewish game.
Okay.
It has mechitza, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's very Jewish.
Too much of a lot.
Okay.
So why not women though?
Sorry?
Why not women?
Because it's coming from the priests. Priests were male. When bathing,
We're second-class citizens.
or swimming, one does not wear a kippah. I'm talking about Jewish law now, okay? Now, a head covering is obligatory while engaged in prayer and Torah study.
Yes.
But that's it. Those are the only 2 times that we are obligated to wear it. All the others, because it represents the Shekhinah, it's better if you do it, right? But it's not mandatory.
Interesting.
Why will religious Jews wear kippah all the time? Because you never know when you're going to say a blessing, or when you will be studying Torah or sharing words of Torah with somebody else. If you stop in the street and you share words of Torah with another person, you're studying Torah, you need a kippah.
Which is why so many wear a kippah under their hat or their shtreimel or their whatever.
Well, it's like the joke.
Some
I said,
would even wear them to bed.
the difference between Reform, Orthodox, and Conservative. So the Reform never,
Yeah.
Orthodox always, Conservative always in the pocket. Because you never, always in the pocket. Okay, anything, and this is also important, anything, including a baseball cap or a scarf tied around one's head, qualifies as a head covering. Okay? In the synagogue, it is more respectful to use a regular kippah.
Yes.
But if you don't have it, a hat or a cup, it's okay. We just don't do it because it's, usually the baseball hat, it's a sport thing, right? And we don't wear sport clothing to come to synagogues.
Think back several generations when men wore hats almost all the time. And so they wore hats in shul, they wore them on the street, they wore them everywhere.
Yes. Okay, so that's a little thing that I wanted to mention about the
Top
kippah.
hats.
But I want to have another thing, and I want to close with this concept, that also this week's Parsha is talking about the two people who actually built the tabernacle. Okay, listen to this. Now, Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, had made all that God had commanded Moses. Okay? At his side was Oholiab, the son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan, carver and designer, an embroiderer in blue, purple, and crimson yarns, and in fine linen. So everything was done or coordinated by these two people, Bezalel and Oholiab. Why do I love this verse so much? And let's see if I have this thing I want to share with you. Hold on. Listen to this. The Zohar, okay? The Zohar says, Bezalel and Oholiab complemented each other, not only in skill, but in Kabbalistic character as well. Bezalel's soul was rooted in the right side of divine attributes, those of kindness and love. Oholiab's soul, on the other hand, was from the left side of judgment and discipline. So if you study Kabbalah, there are two sides in the middle.
Yes.
Right side, that is dominated by Abraham,
Yes.
is the side of kindness and love. Giving, non-stop giving. Left side, dominated by Isaac, is the side of justice.
I'm thinking of the two lions at this point.
And limits.
Yes.
And limits. Everything is just. Okay?
Yeah.
Both are necessary. Okay? Both are necessary. That's why the third one balances Jacob. That he's a twin, he's a double,
That's right.
representing that he has
There's the duality of
he was born as a dual entity.
duality.
Because that is fascinating. So remember, we start the class saying that you need two, right? When you go ask for tzedakah.
Yes.
But then we come now to the building of the tabernacle, and we learn not just to collect the money from the tabernacle, but even to build it. You always needed two. Almost needed two people to do it, which is fascinating as well, right? And I guess they also can, because they complement, they collaborate, they can,
Two halves make a whole.
yeah, that it was also interesting. But at the same time, and that's why I believe this is so inspiring, and I will close with this text. Let me see if I can read it. It said, Oholiab was from the tribe of Dan. This is Rashi talking, okay? Of the lowest of the tribes. He was the son of the handmaidens Bilhah and Zilpah. Dan was actually Bilhah's son. Remember that Jacob had wives, Rachel and Leah, but also had concubines,
Yeah.
Bilhah and Zilpah. And some of the tribes came from these other two women, and they were always considered not at the same level of the other two. Okay? We don't talk much about it,
But they were there. But we acknowledge their existence.
but there were tension between the tribes because of their origin. Okay?
Right.
So yet, God compared Oholiab to Bezalel for the work of the tabernacle. And Bezalel was of the greatest of the tribes, Judah, to fulfill what it says. And the prince was not recognized before a poor man. They were both equal in to the eyes of God. Both Bezalel and Oholiab. So basically what Rashi is saying, that God purposely chose one from Judah, one from Dan.
And
put them
on
together.
the same plane.
Saying that they
On the same
supplement and
coin,
and they are the two halves of the same coin, okay? Because that's the way it works. So listen to this. Oholiab's message, the one from Dan, from the lowest tribe, is one of empowerment. God gives each of us the opportunity and mission to build a home for God. All of us. Okay? We can become the beginning of our lineage. Doesn't matter where you come from. What's matter
within
is
each
what
of
comes
us.
after you. Okay? Oholiab may not have come from the highest stock, but it was he who was vice architect of the tabernacle, and it was his descendants who took part in the building of Solomon's temple in Jerusalem.
Oh,
So what is Oholiab teaching us? That our past truly doesn't define us.
But our past doesn't define us.
Doesn't matter. And that's why they were both chosen. To say,
interesting.
if you were blessed to come from a good family and you got a good education, good for you, but do something great like Bezalel. Because we also know that there are many people that they come from a good family
And do nothing with
and
it.
they die from an overdose age 16, right?
Sadly, but that's true.
So it doesn't, if you come from a good family, don't use that as an excuse for not doing anything, right? But if you come from a tough family, maybe you have to endure hardship, abuse, who knows, right? Who knows? It shouldn't also be an excuse for not doing great things or trying to
Or
do
not
great
trying.
things, like Oholiab.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's what I want to say. I think it's that the message is a message of empowerment.
Good class today, Rabbi.
Well, thank you everyone for
Good
coming
class
out,
today.
and thank you all of you for tuning in. Thank you for the beautiful messages. Remember, if you missed any part of the class, you can tune in tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time. It's going to be rebroadcasted. Okay, you have another chance to revisit the class. For now, have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay safe. Go try to see the geese if you're in Winnipeg. And if you're not in Winnipeg, you probably are in a warmer place. So go enjoy the rest of your day.
There you go.
Okay. Bye, everyone. And hope to see you soon.
I tell you, this class has made me